Just before we get to the main video here on the W128, this case 1958 220S Cabriolet, I just want to say I would encourage you guys, if you're considering heritage for the upholstery of your classic Mercedes, that you watch the video that is about to follow fully in its entirety in the order presented. It details exactly everything you need to know about our offering. There's lots to learn. We encourage people that are working to a high standard on cars. You've already spent a small fortune on paint and mechanical. They're expensive cars to restore. They're beautiful cars when they're restored well. It retains the value, retains the character of the car, and we encourage you to not cut corners on the interior. You want the very best interior for your 220, in this particular case W128 chassis. Both the coupes and the cabs, we hope you choose heritage. We're very proud of what is about to follow, and you'll certainly find cheaper alternatives, but none better. Again, this kit offering that we're about to show on the video is available worldwide shipping, and I hope you enjoy what you're about to see. Mercedes chassis W128 220S Cabriolet. Owners, gentlemen, start your engines. We are looking at Heritage Upholstery's offering for the 220 Cabriolets from the late 50s, early 60s. This video will also work for the coupe version, which we also have the patents for, and we have both variations. This is a 1958 fixed back rear seat, and of course there's fold-in option as well. We're going to start with a quick overview of our work on this Cabriolet. Beautiful car, and I believe we have a beautiful interior to match such a good looking car. I'm very proud to say that we are the only company in the world that offers a complete interior kit package for the W128. Of course there's other chassis variants and so on, but let's just say 220S. So what I mean by I'm going to explain as we go with the videos here exactly why I make that claim. Essentially the claim is made because a lot of people in the business, and there isn't that many, but lots of people offer only the seats, the carpets, convertible top, and that type of thing. But we have developed here at Heritage a complete interior kit, which includes all brand new, fully upholstered panels where it's applicable, and every single piece of leather, to the very smallest pieces that are required for the entire cockpit of the car, are pattern cut, shaped, patterns that are very carefully developed. So we're not just talking we send you 3 leather hides where you have to cut everything else out yourself. There's none of that with this kit. Everything is cut, comes in a labeled bag. The bag that is labeled will tell you exactly what's in the bag, and with that where it goes. Another significant feature of our Heritage Upholstery offering for this model is the fact that we are using correctly skived leather. Now, skived leather means thinned leather, where with the overall thickness is reduced. I'm going to demonstrate that when we look at some other things in detail further in the video. But that is one, and I would say the most significant offering that we have with this kit. It's a very important, very significant thing. In our opinion, you cannot trim a classic Mercedes without the use of Skive Leather. Mercedes did it for a reason, and we do it for the same reasons. It's expensive and difficult to do, and they simply would not have done it if it wasn't necessary. In many places on the car they use full thickness leather, But when they need Skive Leather, they need it for a reason, and that's the beauty of our kit. All the pieces that are skived, they come already skived, ready to go. And again, an exclusive from Heritage. Particularly important on binding, especially on things like the sun visors and the boot cover. Now the boot cover is not finished for this order at the moment, so I'm demonstrating with a 190 boot cover, and there's the original from the 220. But we'll leave it there as an overview. I'm just walking up and down our table here, and then we'll look at everything closer. We can make this as a kit that we can send anywhere over the world, with all the pieces pre-cut and sewn and ready to go. But many of our customers choose to have us rebuild components that can be sent to us. For instance, the rear quarter panels, doors, to mention a few, and of course, goes without saying, the seats. So we'll leave it there. Just before I go, I think I'll mention the fact that we also only use exact original materials that we directly import from Germany. Here's the Hagen, black Hagen with the fleck in it for the trunk sets, of course, always black, leather bound as original. Wilton wool carpet in 18 colors that we stock, and of course the leather itself, very high quality European full grain leather, as close as we can get to the original Rosa leather that Mercedes used. Long lasting, and it has that great smell. Available in all original colors and custom options if you choose to go that way. So there we go. I think that's a pretty good overview, and we'll now start to look at some things in detail, starting with the carpet sets. Okay, so we're looking at the carpet set. This color that we're featuring in the video today is Palomino, and then we have the matching carpet, leather bound with Skive leather, very important, beautifully hand rolled, exactly as it was at the factory at Mercedes. Here's the leather binding, skived to be thin, and again we'll look at that in detail in a few minutes. But here's the carpet set, and has original style heel pad sewn in, has this beautiful this leather binding around the pedals. There's a couple of options here for the automatic no clutch, you know, that if you have that model, or the regular clutched model. Every single piece of carpet that was original to the car is supplied. Looking at the front match here, of course, there's rear mats, and you can see every piece is cut. We computer cut the carpet set, and it's all hand bound here in-house at Heritage. And we'll also offer the trunk carpet set, always in black. There's a couple of options on this. We need to know what side the spare wheel cover is. Spare wheel is in the trunk, and other than that, they're pretty standard. Of course, again, black Hagen, which has the little fleck in it. I think you can see that in the picture. Leather bound with Skive leather, exactly as original. So that's a pretty good view of the carpet. I want to talk about how this is cut, and how many of the kit, much of the kit is cut, especially the panels for the doors and quarters and so on. So we at Heritage here are proud to have this very expensive CAD computer cutter machine. In fact, I've laid this out on the bed of the machine. It's about 7 feet wide, 20 odd feet long. We take the Wilton wool carpet from stock, and we roll it out onto the bed of this machine. We pull up the file. Let's see, there happens to be a 190 file up on the digitizer machine. You can see how all the patterns are nested. Imagine this is for the 220, and the operator brings that up, lays out the carpet, presses a button, and the whole carpet set is cut out in about 32 seconds. What that ensures is accuracy. Once we've got our patterns correct, and they were all developed from original patterns from the car, we can reproduce this exactly the same every time. A great advantage to assured heritage. The same with the panels here. Look at the kick panels. They're cut with the machine that way, and as are the doors. So we'll look at those again in a few minutes in some other episodes. But I think we'll leave it there. That pretty well covers the carpet, and we'll start to look at some of the other pieces, starting with the Skive Leather. Okay, gentlemen, Skive Leather 101, beginner's class. Here we have a sample swatch here. Typical auto grade leather from Europe is 1.1 to 1.3 millimeters thick. That's the thickness of full thickness leather as it was used by Rosa. We can reduce this leather down to approximately half thickness, right down to a third thickness and beyond. I wish you could feel this, but I think you can see just how very thin. We have this at 0.40 millimeters. That's less than half a millimeter thick. It becomes like paper thin. It's very, very important to have that ability to skive leather to these to these various thicknesses, as they were used in various thicknesses throughout the car. So for instance, here's an example. Here's original kick panels in full thickness hide as supplied by Mercedes, and of course there's no reason to have any of this skived, and that's how it was done. And of course we did the same full thickness for the kick panels. However, Mercedes definitely used very thin binding for around these sun visors. So we have the full thickness for the main sections, and when we rebuild the sun visors, we have this very thin, paper thin binding. There's no way to get the correct look on classic Mercedes sun visors without the use of Skive leather. This type of technology and the machine that does this is extremely expensive and is not typically available to small shops and small manufacturers. Gives us a great advantage. Small shops can hand skive smaller pieces, but when you get to those big pieces that cover the rear cowl, for instance, and some other pieces, the dash and components and so on. Here's another example. The knot, that's braided knot here. Oh, again, all Skive leather from Mercedes. So we skive them to different thicknesses depending on their application, and we'll just continue to look at the covers here. Let's just talk about the sun visors first off. Sun visors we completely rebuild. The customer here has sent us the chromes. We do not need the chromes. We don't recommend that you send us these chromes. We just need the frames themselves. Inside here is a cardboard pattern, a frame, and we've digitized that. Again, it's cut on our machine, so we can reproduce these sun visors exactly as they were from Mercedes. And you can see it beautifully top stitched, hand rolled binding with a thin binding. If you attempt, and I've seen them at the shows, you look at the shows yourself, go look at a restored car, and 9 times out of 10 this is not Skive leather. They're using full thickness leather and they're trying to wrap it around. You end up with that chubby Naugahyde look. There's wrinkles, puckers, it just looks terrible. And also you get with the thin Skive leather, you're able to get the correct thickness of binding. Again, width I should say. Again, critical for things like the boot cover, which we'll show in an earlier episode. This is the original 220 that's been picked apart, and we'll look at that on another episode. But again, the binding on the boot cover, critical that it's thin. These small covers that sit behind the door pull handle, again, Skive leather, essential. There's the original. There's the piece there, and there's what we've reproduced there with the cardboard and the Skive leather. I showed these straps. These are an extra to the kit as they, when I say extra, they're sold separately. So we can certainly reproduce these straps, but they're very difficult, time-consuming things to reproduce, but we're happy to do it if customer wants. Again, Skive Leather for the braided knot, and then the inner, this has all been taken apart for pattern development, but you can see the inner is belt type leather, thick, heavy belt type leather in the inside, and then there's Skive Leather on the outside. There's some very thin leather here, and it's made up of 2 pieces of the thick belt leather, and then it's wrapped. You can see just how much work goes into it. It's wrapped carefully and then top stitched, and then the Skive Leather is braided, and there is a lot of work, but we will, these are not completed yet, but when they are complete, I will videotape them finished and show you how beautifully they look. It's a great feature of the car and well worth the effort. Again, we're looking at covers. Continue on with the windlace. The windlace in the 220s are unusual for Mercedes. Most of the models that we do, the windlace is one thickness of rubber tube, usually about 10 to 12 millimeters round, and often they taper. But in this model, they actually use 2 different thicknesses, a small diameter and a larger diameter. So we've replicated that with our windlace. You can see the larger diameter sponge foam, and you can also see how it's been tapered to a point as they were from Mercedes, and then of course the smaller style rubber tube, which is actually not a tapered piece. So I believe this is for the long ones are for the A post kick panel, and the tapered one are for the B post. Come right up against these at the door. As I mentioned earlier, we cut all these pieces of leather, and they're Skive Leather for the rear section of the stowage bin that holds the convertible top frame. These get glued onto the body of the car. You can see originals in here, and you can just imagine, you know, if you've got a car that doesn't have your original pieces, you or your installer won't know how the pieces go in. Simple as that. That history has been lost, but great advantage with Heritage is that we've developed all these from original patterns, and I'm pulling a few out so you can see. And you know, if you're buying hides and you're trying to scratch build this at the local shop, you know, you got to have original pieces. You've got to have the knowledge to know the pattern shapes and where they're cut and where they're joined, what's skived, what isn't. And of course, I'm pulling this out with one hand, but I think I've done it. You can see how long some of these pieces are. This is done in one huge long piece of leather. It goes right the way across the top of the bin. Then you got these two pieces here, and they're glued, they're overlapped there. Again, Skive Leather, so you don't get the thickness build up here. And so that piece there is those. You can see the shape. Okay, so have a pair of them. The big long one at the back again. Now look at what we're doing here. This is all you see when it's installed in the car. This is of course upside down, but let's just say that's what you see. You see where here. This part you don't see, and we supply it almost double the thickness, width I should say. That's to allow the installer a generous amount of leather to be able to pull it around and work the leather. You can see the shape here, how it comes, and how much wider our offering is compared to the original. Let's flip it this way. It's better seen. Yeah. And you can see what we're doing. We're supplying these pieces pre-cut, oversized, ready to install. It takes all the guesswork out of it, and you don't have to buy any extra leather. We've included every single piece you need for the entire inside of the car. So that's how we do it there with the covers. I'm going to follow around here, continue on looking at some of the other panels. Same with the dash components here. These are leather pieces. These two are for the front post. There's two blocks either side at the kick panel. There's the covers for them. Here's pieces for the dash. Again, Skive Leather, very thin, various thicknesses. That's for the there's an original look, inside glove box, and then we have our pattern. Again, you can see generously oversized, ready to fit. Top glove box inside, and we have the leather, and so on. You get the idea. There's the original Skive Leather from the glove box door, and you can see just how difficult this is to recover, and why thin Skive Leather is essential. Look how Mercedes did that cut in here and formed all this around. Of course, the wood finisher covers this. And there's what we've done here at Heritage. We've reproduced it exactly. And many of these components, for instance, the door, as you see here, the armrests, sun visors, rear quarter panels, and the doors themselves can be sent to us, and we have flat rate, standard labor rate that doesn't change. We know what it takes to rebuild these, and we can quote you, when we quote your kit, we will also quote the labor for us to rebuild these pieces, or we can send it out in kit form and you have it installed locally. It is something I strongly recommend with the value of the car that you have professionally installed. This is not a car that you want to be doing at home on a Sunday. This door panel, for instance, is particularly difficult to do. Looks simple when it's all done, but it's lots of little pieces, very difficult to do. Again, we CNC cut the replacement panel board, as you can see here. So that's brand new, cut on our machine, and we make use of the steel pockets and all these other components that are molded to shape. We need all those, so you need to send us your complete door, as this customer did, and then we rebuild all the components. Look how beautifully this is top stitched. If you plan to, if it's a show car and you re-chrome and everything, we ask you to send us all these pieces already chromed. Same with the seat frames, and we'll talk about them in a minute. Wool cloth lined as original. You can see how difficult all of this has to be built very carefully for it all to be assembled. Of course, the line in the middle is covered with the wood finisher, and then all these pieces are all recovered and completely rebuilt, so you end up getting the door panel back like this, ready to fit onto the car. And of course, guaranteed perfect fit with our CNC cutting. I think we'll leave it there. We will, well, maybe we'll cover the rear quarter panels while we're at it. You can see the pair here. You can see that we need you to send us these if you want us to recover them, as this customer did. This is aluminum panel. There's wood panels here. Very often the pad on the foam here is deteriorated, and we've replaced it. We've got new padding here, and of course all the original steel components. You know, we try to retain the numbers that the factory put on these pieces. So, and you send it to us as they are, and they come back to you looking brand new like this. Again, it'll be on your quote. You can see the rates for those shop services. I didn't cover the kick panel, did I? Not really. We talked about Skive Leather. I just want to show you guys some details here. Again, these details are very often lost through the years on cars that have been restored by Joe's Upholstery in 1972 in red Naugahyde. You know the cars I'm talking about. And of course all this knowledge is lost, but you can see how Mercedes had tacks here on the original, and we've replicated that. And we also have these finishing tack strips that are skived down. We've even included the tacks so that can be installed exactly as original. Those get hammered in to wooden tacks within the body of the car. So that's our attention to detail. Again, the panel itself is is cut with our CAD files, DXF files for any of you techie guys that are interested. And I think that does it. Let's clear the table a little bit and have a closer look at the beautiful seats. And I think that'll conclude. Oh, of course, there is the convertible top boot and headliner that will follow in a later episode. They're not complete yet for this order. Yeah, I guess we'll cover this now before we get into the seats. Again, this is a 190. You see how it's wool cloth backed, so this is in the early stages. But I wanted to point this out. This is something that Mercedes did that will often get missed by your local upholstery shop if they're trying to make an interior for and again, you know, when you're dealing with a specialist company like us here at Heritage, you know, what you're getting are the guaranteed results that we're showing you here, the knowledge, and we unconditionally guarantee everything to be exactly as original and to fit exactly as original to the highest show standards. So, even if your local shop had this boot cover, and they do often survive, it's shrunk and distorted. How are you going to take a pattern from that? So you need the cars, you need to be able to develop the patterns, and we've done that. Anyway, my point with this, I want to show you. You can see a little bit left on it. Look how ultra thin that binding is there. But when I say thin, I mean the width of it. It is about 5 millimeters, quarter of an inch. See some of the remnants there. You can only get that thin look again with Skive Leather. Another very important thing here. Look at this. Common on the 190s, and I believe the 111 112s. Actually, maybe not the 111 112s, but this boot cover is very similar to the 190s. At about this point here, right the way over to this point here on the boot cover, the factory have deliberately hand cinched. You can see the sewing right there. Not the main stitch line, but the other one in front of it. Hand cinched this leather, and by doing that, they create tension, and you can see how it lifts and makes this pocket in the corner. Very important. If you take this cover and you, like a lot of shops do, and they just lay it flat, you don't get this cupped look. That's how it's achieved. That's how we do it here at Heritage, and exactly as original. And you get that real good factory perfect look. There's the wool cloth on the lining. Again, we'll show it in a later episode. I'm just showing the 190 here at this point. So to follow will be the convertible top, headliner, and boot cover. And like I said, now we'll clear the table and have a look at the seats. Okay, front seats. Start with the chrome here. I've just had the guys unwrap this to show you. Beautiful finish on this chrome. Of course, the whole frame is chromed. At our chromers there, we've taken the bubble wrap off that. Of course, when we're working on seats, it has to be carefully wrapped, but you can see the results are pretty impressive. We've got the back of the seat itself. You can see the brand new panel board with the top stitch line as original. There's a lot of tack strips that are sewn right into these seat covers, just as it was at Mercedes. You can see how it's finished at the bottom beautifully. And we'll flip it over so we can see the most important side, which would be the front. And then we have it there. Again, beautifully tucked. You can see how the sewer has tucked each one of those pleats. Just perfect. Of course, we can't assemble this without the hardware, so we're not even trying. And then we have the cushion. Again, the use of Skive Leather to get that perfect look for the piping. And yes, another very, very important thing. I mentioned it earlier. Let me just flip this down. I mentioned it earlier in the video on the boot cover, and I talked about that cinching. That cinching is also done in the seats of Mercedes. You can see it here. This forms this cup. You can see it there. It's only done in certain sections. This is how you get this look. Impossible to get that look without that cinch in. It's also used to get this roll here. And again, this is a good example right here on this corner. So we cinch everything exactly as original. Of course, the whole skirt is in leather. All the pads have been repaired, replaced as necessary. New burlap, and you can see on the side seat there, whenever they could get away with. This is a wool cloth on the side, and it joins there because, of course, you don't see it when it's in the car. Again, we're looking at the fixed rear seat, and of course the fold down is available also from us. So I think that's a pretty good overview, guys. I think we've finally made it to the end here. I keep I'm doing this for nearly 25 years, and I still love the smell and feel of our work. In case you can't tell by my enthusiasm, I believe in what we do here at Heritage. I'm very proud of it. Love to be a part of your restoration plans. Samples are free on request. We have, again, flat rates on all this, no moving target as far as costs. Of course, you're welcome to bring the whole car down to us here in beautiful, sunny Palm Springs, California. We can accept cars from anywhere in the world and finish everything in-house. But this works pretty good for most people. We don't need the car, just send us your bits. You know that you're getting guaranteed results for the pieces that count, where the focal point is of the car. Seats are important, panels, door panels, rear quarters, dash components that we can see, sun visors. Those are important. You get those right, everything's right. The rest of it can be installed locally. All of these things have to be glued and nailed, tacked to the body. Same with all this here. We can't do this. We need the car. We offer unlimited tech support. We help. It's in our best interest that this interior turns out as good as it possibly can. Can't reach down the phone and do it, but we can help as much as possible. There are no instructions with any of our kits, but we're certainly happy to share our knowledge so that we can get the best results. Nothing worse than us doing our beautiful work and then somebody else spoiling it with the rest of the install. So as you can see, it makes good business sense. There we go. I think I have done it, worn myself out. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch up with some of the boot, top, and headliner later video, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, gentlemen. So finally, the beautiful seats, the crowning glory 220S Cabriolet in this particular case. You can see how beautifully these turned out. Exact reproduction of Mercedes offerings in every detail. And I know I promised I'd show you the seats, and I will. But just before I forget, I just want to cover the armrest here. So that it was something I missed earlier. I did show them, but we didn't talk about them. These armrests are wooden. Of course, they can be sent to us. The pads on the top often will always need replacing. You can see how beautifully top stitched this is being made here at Heritage, exactly as original. The piping itself is Skive Leather. And then, of course, these covers. There's the original, there's the fiberboard inside, and these covers actually sit right behind the armrest onto the door panel itself. And that's how detailed our kit is, to include even those. Just before we get to the seats, I want to talk about the hardware for the seats. In here is the recline mechanisms, sorry, not recline mechanisms, basically chrome nuts and bolts hardware for the seats, and the retractor hardware for the sliders. Here's for instance, the glove box handle. We ask that you don't send us these things. We're not a general restoration shop. We don't get involved in this type of stuff. There's a lot of work and cost and detail in this type of stuff, and people are going to work to different standards and use different chroming companies or maybe not even bother at all. That's not our decision to make. We ask that you make that decision. We don't get involved in the assembly of anything we didn't disassemble for obvious reasons. But if you want that installed, of course, and all the chrome as we showed on the doors, then send it to us, present it to us chrome, then we can install it on. With that said, there is one exception, and that's the backrest of the front seat here. You can see the front seats. Here we have a very high quality chroming company local to us that it took a little trial and error, but we finally got there, and they do a beautiful job of rechroming the seats. We ask that you send the backrest for the front seats not stripped down. We will take care of the chroming, and the reason is because within the seat itself there's a lot of padding that can and should be reused. It's a lot of it's hand stitched, and we don't want anyone getting into that seat wrecking what's there that we need to reuse just to get at the chrome frames. Leave it for us to do. Our guys here will strip them down carefully, preserving the padding on the back seat for the front, this is, and then we'll send the chromes out to be chromed, and then we rebuild the seat as we did here. The cushion base, once you've got the steel stripped down, if you want to go ahead and paint, if you want a painted frame, then paint it and send it to us already done. If you want us to do it, then as we did here with this order, and we can do it. I'll flip these over and I'll show you some of that. But let's now finally get to the seats. Piping, welting as some people call it, skived, very important. Okay, you see how dead straight it is. Beautiful finish on this seat. We have the original basket weave, heat embossed, exactly as original from Mercedes. We have a specialty machine that's featured in the photographs on our webpage that's set up specifically for Mercedes to do this 12mm twin needle stitch. It's a specialty machine we had made just for Mercedes. Local shop trying to do two parallel lines like that, good luck, impossible. The punched holes, of course, the embossing, and even the pleat, even the pads within the pleats. Another great advantage of our machine. It's a blade-driven machine. We have formulated the construction of the pads. It's a proprietary. I can tell you what's in it, but I can tell you there's the results. And we cut them with the pads get cut with our machine, and that ensures absolute dead straight pleats. They were tool pressed at Mercedes, but if you don't have any of those options, you're left with a steel ruler on some felt that's nearly ½ inch thick, holding that down and trying to cut with a blade all these pleats to be dead straight. Good luck. Good luck cutting them straight, and good luck not cutting your fingers off. So the machine cuts all the pleats so that they're ready to fit in, and you can see now just how dead straight we get them here. Shadow line in the backs there, but there you can see it, just beautiful. And again, we'll look at this customer sent his seats as is, and we've painted the seat steels, glass beaded and painted, just a flat black here for this one. The burlap on the inside of the seats has all been replaced. You can see some evidence of that at the bottom down there. And of course, the same with the back. Look at this hand sewn as it was from Mercedes. And then the new burlap and the frame. Even the tack strips that get sewn into the seat back here and there's lots of them in the front seat, get cut on our machine. So we'll clear this rear seat, as beautiful as it is, and we'll look closely at the front seat. 1958 Mercedes 220S Cabriolet in this particular case. This is typical of old seats, and they come into us. They've seen better days, to say the least. There's a lot of man hours that goes into these seats for Mercedes and for anybody else for that matter, for us. They all have to be stripped down, and the metalwork has to be dealt with. We ask that you do not send us the tracks and runners or any of the other chrome pieces that you can remove from the seat. The backrest is a different story. You can see here's the original. I'm just showing some before pictures so we can compare with our beautiful work when it's done. You can see these are very well worn. Now, for us to do our work, we have to get involved in the chroming. We don't like to, but it's a necessary evil for us. So these frames, this pad has to be completely removed from the frame. It's quite a lot of work. Mercedes hand stitched this on here. There's a lot of hand stitching, a lot of work before the leather cover even goes on, and it's tacked in here. So all of this has to be carefully removed so that we get at the frame. You can see this here. Now we will be replacing, and you can see it hog ringed. We'll be replacing the burlap and reworking the padding to be like new. But I just wanted to show you what was involved before we send this out for re-chroming. They chrome just the part you see, the other part. Now in this particular case, we have the glass bead, sandblast, you know, the steels.